16 hours after the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Truman asked the Japanese government to surrender. They do not respond. As a result, on August 9th, 1945, a second atomic bomb was dropped by a B-29 bomber called the Boskar on the city of Nagasaki. 2 days later, on August 9th, 1945, a second atomic bomb was dropped by a B-29 bomber called the Boskar on the city of Nagasaki. That atomic blast killed an additional 40,000 people. So on August 9th, 1945, a second atomic bomb was dropped by a B-29 bomber called the Boskar on the city of Nagasaki. The blast killed an additional 40,000 people. $140,000 people are killed. Sad. Really sad. How many people do you think would have been killed if we'd invaded the mainland? Could be 3 million people. 2.5 Japanese soldiers were going to defend that. We're estimated losing. I mean, it's a sad thing to lose 140,000 people. But compare that to maybe 2 or 3 million people. That's the decision Truman had to make. Well, finally, the Japanese could take no more, and they surrendered on August 10th, 1945, ending World War II. Finally, the Japanese could take no more, and they surrendered on August 10th, 1945, ending World War II. Now, that is not VJ Day, because what happens is once they surrender, what do they have to agree to, Japan? Terms of surrender. Okay? So 4 days after that, on August 14th of 1945, President Truman announced by radio that Japan had accepted the Allied surrender terms, and as a result of that, it is August 14th, 1945, that becomes known in American history as VJ Day. Okay, so not the day they surrendered of August 10th, but the day they accepted formally the terms of surrender on August 14th, 1945. That day goes down in American history as VJ Day. And you have a picture of this, which I gave you when we talked about General Jonathan Wainwright. On September 2nd of 1945, the formal surrender by Japan to the Allies was conducted on the deck of the American battleship, the USS Missouri. On September 2nd of 1945, the formal surrender by Japan to the Allies was conducted on the deck of the American battleship USS Missouri. Who led that surrender? Signature? Douglas MacArthur. And he has who with him? Jonathan Wainwright and Arthur Percival. Very good. Both prisoners of war. The greatest war in world history officially came to an end on September 2nd, 1945. All right, I'm going to read a book to you. It's called Shin's Tricycle. You ever heard it? Okay, so I want you just to put your notes away, and I just want you to listen carefully. Listen carefully. This is an elementary book. Look at this wonderful book here. Okay? Picture book. Yeah, I'm going to show you pictures. I want you to really soak this in. Really soak this in. It's called Shin's Tricycle. Here we go. Every August, I am haunted by the same memory. In my mind, I see my son Shin riding the red tricycle that he dreamed of getting for his birthday. But this happy picture disappears behind a cloud of smoke and ash. A darkness falls on my heart when I think of the one day in August that brought all our dreams to an end. book was written a while ago, so bear with me. 50 years ago, when Shin was 3, our family lived in a small town and in a house near a quiet river that flowed through Hiroshima, Japan. Shin and his 2 sisters, Michiko and Yoko. But his best friend was Kimi, the girl who lived next door. Each day they played house and looked at picture books, especially the one that showed the tricycle that Shin wanted so badly, even though he knew it was an impossible dream. There weren't any tricycles anywhere in Japan. In 1941, Japan had attacked America and many other countries. And after 4 years of war, bicycles, temple bells, even pots and pans were melted down to build tanks and cannons. There were no new toys anywhere. But Shin wanted to bike so much that one day he wouldn't eat anything. He pleaded to me, "Papa, you'll buy me a tricycle, won't you? Please, Papa, please." His mother lightly touched his shoulder and said, "We're sorry, Shin. You'll have to learn to be patient. We all have to live without things we want right now." Shin was heartbroken, but he knew his mother was right. Then one day, Shin's uncle, a sailor in the Japanese Navy, came to visit. "Shin," he called, "come here, I have something for you." "What is it?" Shin asked with excitement as he stared wide-eyed at the huge package in his uncle's arms. "Take a guess," his uncle said. "It's something you really, really want." With that, his uncle hid the gift behind him. Shin was so excited he jumped around to reach the package. But his uncle, laughing all the while, kept the mystery gift hidden. Just then, Shin saw a red handle poking through the wrapping. "It's a tricycle," he shrieked, not believing what he saw. But as he tore away the rest of the wrapping, his eyes filled with tears. "Oh, thank you, Uncle. Thank you so much. Where did you get it?" "I found it hidden in the back of my closet," his uncle said. "I'm shipping out before your birthday, so I wanted to give it to you now." Quickly, Shin jumped on the bike, looking proudly at me and said, "Look, Papa, my dream came true." Look at that. Uncle bringing him home. The bike and tricycle is always. The morning of August 6, 1945 was a beautiful one. The air was filled with the sandpapery sounds of crickets rubbing their legs together in the nearby trees. But the quiet of the morning was broken by another air raid siren warning an American bomb attack. When the siren stopped, Shin and Kimi ran to the backyard, giggling as they jumped on the tricycle and rode around the yard. A group of soldiers repairing the road in front of our house laughed as they watched the red tricycle speed by, with Shin and Kimi beaming like lanterns. I too was laughing as I went back into our house to get ready for work. And then the unthinkable happened. You think they had siren raids and nothing happened many, many, many times? They were always warning the homeland, okay? So, the impossible is going to happen. An explosion so terrible, a flash so blinding bright, I thought the world had ended. Then, just as quickly, everything went black. When I woke up, darkness surrounded me and I couldn't move. I was trapped, but where? Then I saw faint light coming through a small hole above me. I began to move my hands, carefully feeling the big wooden beams that were holding me down. I reached up and touched something smooth. It was the ceiling of our house. The whole house had collapsed on top of me. Slowly I crawled toward the light and onto the roof. I was looking into a hot black wind. I couldn't believe my eyes. Nothing was left. No Kimi's house, no temple, no people, no Hiroshima. I cried out into the wind, "Is anyone there? Help!" I heard Mother scream, "Help me!" I stumbled over our fallen house and found Mother digging in the rubble. There was Shin, pinned under a big beam. Quickly I lift the beam while Mother gently pulled Shin out. His face was bleeding and swollen. He was too weak to talk, but his hand was still on the red handle grip bar from his tricycle. Kimi was gone, lost somewhere under the house. Then I spotted the edges of two little dresses trapped beneath the roof. Behind them, a wall of fire raced towards our house. "Michiko, Yoko," I screamed, "I'm coming." With all my strength, I tried to lift the roof beams, but couldn't. The fire was very close now and was so hot, I feared my clothes would start burning. Suddenly the beam was on top of Michiko and Yoko burst into flames. Miko! Yoko! I cried in horror. I was helpless to save my girls. There was nothing I could do. But Shin had a chance, so Mother and I rushed him away from the raging fire to the river. The survivors all gathered on the riverbank. It was a horrible sight. Everyone was burned, and they were crying, moaning, and screaming for water. Water, I want water, pleaded Shin in a faint voice. I wanted to help him so much, but all around people were dying when they drank the water, so I didn't dare give him any. Papa, Shin whispered so quietly I could barely hear him. My tricycle. I squeezed his hand that still held the plastic grip. Shin, I said, you still have the handle in your hand. His swollen face seemed to brighten, and a little smile peeked through. But that night he died 10 days before his 4th birthday. The next day I went back to our house. There I found the little bones of Machito and Yoko lying together. I burst into tears. I'm sorry, my loves. Please forgive me. After I buried them, I cried for a long time, remembering how happy they had been just the day before. The next evening, I dug a grave in our backyard for Shin, but before I buried him, Kimmy's mother arrived carrying Kimmy's body. They were such good friends, she said sadly. We should bury them together. So Kimmy and Shin were buried together, holding hands, along with Shin's treasured tricycle, which we had found in the rubble. Every evening after, we stood by the river and cried out our children's names. "40 years passed after the atomic bomb turned Hiroshima into a desert, and there was new life all around the city. People had worried that nothing would ever grow again, but trees and grass sprouted everywhere. Children laughed and played in the parks. I remember the smiles of my own children, and my heart still ached with the memory." For many years, Mother and I had been comforted by knowing our children were so close by, but we always had intended to give our children a proper burial in the cemetery. One day we decided the time had come to move them. We began digging in the backyard, and Kimmy's mother joined us. After a few minutes of digging, I hit something metal. I looked closely and saw a rusty pipe sticking through the dirt. "Look, Mother, it's the tricycle. I had forgotten it was here." Before I knew it, I was crying. I had to turn away. I just couldn't look at it. "Look, Papa, there's something white," Mother said. We all stared at the little white bones of Kimmy and Shin, hand in hand, as we had placed them. Wars are always brutal. No matter who starts one, innocent people die, even children like Shin and Kimmy. With tears in my eyes, I gently lifted Shin's tricycle. "This should never again happen to children," I said. "Maybe if enough people could see Shin's tricycle, they would remember that the world should be a peaceful place where children can play and laugh." The next day I took the tricycle to the Peace Museum in Hiroshima. Now Shin's story helps the dream of peace alive for children around the world. Author's note. Sadly, the story in Shin's tricycle is true. Shin was killed when the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima less than 2 weeks before his 4th birthday. Although his life was short, he had a great purpose. Each year, 1.5 million people visit the Peace Museum and see the exhibit about Shin's life. His battered tricycle serves as a reminder of all the young victims of that tragic day and as a symbol of the joyful and innocent time childhood should be. Shin inspires all of us to strive for a lasting peace so that the events of that terrible day, August 6, 1945, are never repeated. Here's the tricycle. It's on display at the museum right now. This is a true story, and the reason I read this to you is that this was not an easy decision for Harry Truman. These are the type of people that died in that decision. But his decision was to do that and get the Japanese government to surrender or forfeit the lives of at least 1 million American GIs and probably 2 million Japanese soldiers. So I still think although Harry Truman does not get the credit he deserves, I really believe that he is one of the most courageous American presidents we've ever had, and that decision would not have been an easy decision to make, because this is the result of that decision in many cases. So, anyway, well, we are done with the lecture on World War II with the exception of the final costs. And what we'll do tomorrow is we'll give you the final costs of World War II, money-wise and death, casualties, and then we're going to watch 2 videos, one about the dropping of the bomb on Hiroshima, and then another one on the decade of the 1940s, and then we're going to have a test probably about next Tuesday, just so you know. Okay, that's it for today.